Good morning and welcome to Reuzel Live. Today is Monday, March 28th. My name is Nicholas Giverson with Reuzel Education. And today we have the man, the manther, the myth, the legend, Reuzel Technical Director, George Accattato. So excited to have him here today. George, take it away.
Oh, Nick, you're too kind to me. Thank you. Although you missed quite a few names. But I don't think those are names that are good for live consumption. But good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, wherever you're at in the country and in the world. It's good to be back. We are on year 2 of Facebook Lives, and the pandemic is waning. It's getting better. We are maskless, especially some of us look better in masks, but I'm glad to have them off. And we've got an exciting, action-packed hour. So thank you for being here. Ask all the questions you want. I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach. As Nick said, I have the honor of being Reuzel's technical director. I've had the pleasure of being with Reuzel since before Reuzel actually even started. I had the chance to go to Rotterdam and hang out with the boys at Scorum and sort of go through and kind of create, more of a curriculum based on what they were doing. I was so blown away by, as we all were, over 10 years ago, seeing the work that was coming out of Rotterdam at this tiny little barbershop called Scorum, and sort of taking that, that method and putting it into something that we can, create an educational foundation behind. And that's really what my job is with Reuzel, is sort of taking that down and putting it on paper and teaching it to the masses around the country and around the world. So without further ado, this is Jake. Hello, Jake.
Hello.
And he's a dear friend and a dear client of mine, and he was kind enough. He's not had a haircut, I think, since December, and I cut his hair. He had a ponytail. It was a pretty typical COVID, not get a haircut for 2 years. I cut that ponytail off quite a few months ago, and he just left with a whole bunch of hair. So I have a lot to work with. And really what I'm going to do is I really want to kind of, like I said, kind of break down what we do and how we do and what the sort of the Reuzel method is kind of all about as we're going through this. So, we have what we call a core navigation that, how we start every haircut, how we sort of look at there's a very defined roadmap that takes us through from beginning to end. And the first thing we do is, is we assess the hair. There again, I was blessed with this guy having, a gorgeous, head full of hair, lots of it. And, we're going to start by just sort of wetting it down. This is kind of what we do. Bertus, our fearless leader over in Rotterdam, he, kind of a standard line that he has, which is just so true, is, with all the products we have, water is probably the number one and best product ever invented in the history of mankind, because you want to be able to, see what the hair is going to do. Anything you can do with water, you can do with product. And especially when you're starting with such long hair like I am, you want to be able to, to move the hair around and actually see what it does, how it moves, how it shapes. And then basically you just take off the hair that you don't need. All right, we're gonna leave Jake's hair a little bit on the longer side today. I've seen a lot of amazing work and a lot of amazing barbers. I think it's one of the great things that we kind of look at. What did this pandemic do? As devastating as it was for so many of us, as personally, professionally, economically, I think one of the cool things that it did was that it gave us an opportunity to have, education and to see people on, live on camera around the world. Instagram accounts and Facebook accounts and things like that have just exploded in the last few years. So I'm really starting, seeing just amazing barbers and hairdressers that are cutting such cool hair, and fades and skin fades and flat tops and whatnot. It's just, the work is just amazingly impressive from all over. And so what I want to do is not to go quite as short today, but work through all the steps that we go through with with Reuzel, and to give him more of a kind of a long trim type thing, because I love the fenders that he has on the sides. And you're going to see as I go through the process and why we start where we start. I'll explain everything as we go, why we start where we start, and it's sort of the roadmap that we follow. It's going to start to hopefully make sense at how we kind of create a shape. Okay, so wet the hair down. Like I said, so the first thing I do is I really like to comb it and kind of get it to sort of move and see, even before I cut his hair, exactly what it's going to do, how it's going to react to just water. We're doing head assessments. Fortunately, because his hair's not going, skin fade short, I don't have to go through and look too much as far as, marks, scars, and whatnot. If you were going much shorter, you'd want to do that. But I just want to sort of move his hair around and see kind of what it does even before I start cutting hair. All right. So I'm going to use just a little bit of the hair tonic. Often people will put it in the water bottle. With his hair being as thick as it is, I want to add just a little bit to my hands and really sort of work it through. This will kind of maintain the moisture as I'm working through this. But again, he has a lot of hair, and we do so much of the haircut after we blow dry. So, working with wet hair, because it sections better, it cuts better as far as I'm concerned, and you can kind of get a cleaner sort of look. Then I want to blow it dry. But one of the important things is I don't want to have it sopping wet and too wet that I have to kind of go from wet to dry in the middle of a haircut. I want to see this shape sort of create. So there's a fine line between how wet it needs to be, and I want to maintain the moisture without having to kind of keep going after my water bottle. Set in my my baseline. So there again, this is sort of what sort of separates Reuzel, and kind of what we're doing is we're kind of creating this baseline pretty much from the recession. We're going to follow the natural curve of the head. So unlike a old traditional sort of horseshoe-shaped parting that kind of creates a cap on top, often that will be a little bit too high. In these classic cuts especially, we want to follow, what I like to do is I take something that I know is straight, which is a comb, and I just follow that, so I know I've kind of created a straight line. Even though it looks like a diagonal, it is actually a straight line. And then I'll do the same on the other side, just to kind of get all this hair kind of up out of the way, so I can work as clean as possible, especially when you're working with this amount of hair. You want to work as clean as possible. I have a couple shout outs to do this morning, so I want to, I think my number one fan should be on this morning. Hi, Mom. From Youngstown, Ohio, representing. She's here on watching me. When I did probably my first hair show ever back in the Midwest Beauty Show in Chicago in about 91. Yes, that's how old I am. She was there, and she's been here supporting me ever since. So and then I think my lovey Mary's on as well. Hi, Mary. So I don't know how many other people are watching Nick, but at least I got two. So we're all good. All good.
Hey, George. So far, we've got a good amount of people watching all over the U.S. I believe Argentina, Chile.
Hola.
You
Hola.
got some watchers. You got some watchers.
Good.
No questions yet, but we got some viewers.
Good. Good. Yeah, you know, Monday is our training day here at the shop at Art and Science, and so we have our apprentices here watching. So I have a live audience actually in the room as well. So I'm going to be doing a little bit of both. It's going to be now I'm taking my time. I mean, this is not, you know, this is kind of a part of the haircut that you don't want to rush through. I'm not rushing through this, making sure I get this primary parting in, because this will, you know, create the balance for the entire bit of haircut. Once you have this kind of done and set, then you can kind of move through quite quickly. But don't rush through this part to separate what we call, you know, the interior from the exterior, right? We want to have this sort of separated, then we're going to kind of work from there. So like I said, we're going to start with the baseline. There's a couple ways there. Again, it's tools to me are irrelevant only to, not irrelevant, but relevant only to length and texture, right? I can cut this hair with a shear, I can cut it with a clipper, I can cut it with a razor, and basically all that's going to do is give me different lengths and different textures. The technique always stays the same. And that's, so we don't look at it as, oh, we're doing a razor cut, or oh, we're doing a clipper cut. I'm giving Jake, you know, sort of a pompadour with a bit of fenders. So, you know, what tool I use is really kind of indicative to kind of the length and the shape that I want on this. So I'm going to work with a horizontal section where we start. And I'm going to start everything with my shears first. There again, it's working from a baseline. I said, because I want to have these fenders, what happens is when you have hair that's too long, you can see there's a tendency to be round, right? Long hair with men gets round. We want that tall, lean, vertical shape. So by starting right at the baseline, kind of right above the mid-ear, pulling everything up that will reach, and having it parallel to the floor. We talk often about being able to balance a marble. If your projection is too low, the marble runs towards you. If it's too high, it runs away from you. You want to be able to balance that you know you're coming straight off the head. So we start to lean the shape out. And then basically what happens is I have complete control over everything else I do. So the first thing I want to do is just to work all the way around, working parallel to my section, to my primary parting, combing from the underneath, combing from the top. Again, combing is probably the most crucial thing that we do. In all of my classes, one of the first questions I'll always ask is, you know, what do you think we do for a living? And everybody says, oh, we cut hair. I'm like, well, no, we don't. We comb hair, right? So how we comb the hair in relation to the head, like I said, whether it's a comb, whether it's a scissor, whether it's a razor, whether it's a clipper, whether it's broken glass, kind of doesn't matter what method you use to remove the hair. How you comb it in relation to the head is sort of what makes us special, right? That's what makes this, you know, us professionals. I have two sons. When they were little, they cut each other's hair. I've seen it. It wasn't pretty, right? So you have to be able to comb hair in relation to the head. So I'm going to work all the way to the center back. Now I'm going to work off of a diagonal. So this is going to be a bit of a kind of a long trim, kind of Vanguard hybrid, because he has enough length. So now I have my guide. Now, depending on how tight I want the sides is sort of the angle that I change my fingers, right? I can leave this actually just as long as I want. So we have much more of, like I said, a fender type of a look where we have this swoop back. But you can see the difference of taking that baseline, where on this side, it's much rounder, that I haven't cut yet. This side, It's much leaner, even though the perimeter length is the same. And that's sort of the beauty of starting here and starting with the baseline, is that you're in complete control over the entire haircut. If you're starting at the bottom and working up, you have to guess where that needs to be. And often you cut this short and you want to leave length here, and you get a light bulb effect by taking this horizontal baseline straight out. You're establishing your guide. Now, because he's going to have length on top, I wanted to make sure that there's enough length through this baseline, because this is going to be my guide for the entire rest of the haircut. So using that, now working diagonal. And I know I want to get closer to the hairline, so I'm just going to start tapering this down in. This is what we call the sketch, right? We kind of, there again, we break the haircut down into a couple different categories. And the first thing we're doing is we're putting in the sketch. Basically, it's bulk removal. I'm removing bulk, putting in the actual framework of the haircut. I'll go back afterwards after I dry it, because that's really when the tailoring of the haircut starts, is, remove bulk, get the initial sketch in, get the shape in, and then go back in and do all the detail and finish work. Could this be done with a clipper? Of course it could. And I said I'm going to be doing a lot of clipper work around the perimeter, but I like this. I like to use the shears because of the angle of which I'm using. I can change the angle of my finger really easy, and I can see how it's going to fit in there. All right, let's move to the opposite side. And you'll find once you kind of get used to this method and you kind of get rolling with it, it's very fast. It's a very fast method of cutting hair. Like I said, I can't, implore enough on how important it is to really set your initial parting in first. Then once you have this in, then you just sort of blasting right through. So you can check and measure if you like, to make sure you have both sides about the same. And an important feature also is that I'm cutting a very straight line. As we get to the front and his hairline curves and his head curves, I'm not following that head shape, because I don't want this corner to collapse in and be shorter. I actually want to maintain and create this corner. So as the head and the hairline are curving around, I'm cutting like two flat planes going forward. So maintaining my elevation, make sure I'm coming straight off the head. Now I'm matching up with my guide on the other side, right? So I cut this side to the center back, just cross the center, and I'm going to match it here, so that way I have balance and symmetry. Right-handed people start on the right-hand side. Left-handed start on the left-hand side. When I work diagonal, being right-handed, my fingers were pointed up, because I was able to maintain this. On this side, I would have to, if I wanted my fingers up, I'd have to cut hair like this, which is impossible, really. So this is where you actually change your hand position and your body position. Still using my guide at the top. And now my finger position is mirrored to the opposite side. And I'll keep working down. I'll take another layer down closer to the nape. All right, sketch bottom half of the head, done. So much more work to do, right? I mean, there's all this hair around the sideburn area. There's all the neckline needs to be addressed. I kind of sort of take care of that now that I have the majority of the bulk. And you can see by following this down into the natural curve of the head, I'm maintaining length to give it much more of a natural and masculine head shape. If I was to follow this and my horseshoe was too high, this weight line would be much higher as well. Depends on the haircut, but in these classic haircuts, I like to have them where they follow the natural curve of the head. So that's why our baseline setting that in is so important. All right. We've changed a few things. You know, like I said, when I started with Reuzel back 10 years ago, you know, it was you know, Burtis and Lane and, you know, all the original scumbags from Squirm, you know, cutting hair and cutting beautiful hair. You know, just how they got to the end result was always a bit different. It was always, you know, a bit unique, but the end result was beautiful. So we said we had to kind of stop and break everything down into, you know, into steps for education. And even over the 10 years, that has evolved. You know, I mean, you know, I'm proud to say that Reuzel has also evolved with the times, and you know, we see what works, you know, and we see what doesn't work, and we try to make it all work better and better and better. So we've changed some sectioning patterns, especially when it comes to the transition. So I'm going to take this down and show you how we've kind of changed the top into the transition. I'm just going to add a little bit more water. So we've broken it down into thirds, actually. Because as anybody knows, as anybody that has followed, you know, Reuzel or classic hair, the you know, the front, right? This area here is the money shot, right? That's the, you know, this is the part of hair that, you know, really gets. That's the first thing you see on Instagram, first thing you see on Facebook, first thing you see on Tinder, right? Everybody's sort of showing their, you know, this is the money shot right here. So we're going to separate that and keep that for the last. All right, so we're going to go right from this, right where the baseline happened, and go right up to the top. We're going to create this triangle. So if you're going to take your comb once again and kind of run that into basically a straight line, and then we'll do the same on the opposite side, and hope that I've created. Now here again, this changes based on a few factors, right? You know, not every guy that comes in has, you know, the beautiful head of hair that Jake has. So, you know, you know, the three, you know, different areas stay the same, but the width and dimension may vary based on density and texture. Right, so Jake has a lot of hair, so I'm going to maybe make this just a bit wider than all right, this is the front. Now we're going to go from behind the mid-ear, and we're going to roll right over the top. And separate the crown. Again, I want to get very deliberate with this so that you can see at home exactly what it should look like, needs to look like. Now, there again, Jake has a lot of hair. There's length there. I have the, you know, the great advantage of being able to separate everything so that way you can see it. You know, a lot of times guys don't have, you know, as much hair, so your sections might be a little bit harder. Use a clip. We were kind of a little bit anti-clip at first, but you know, if you need to kind of get it out of the way, but use a black one. I think Burtis gets away with using pink everything. God bless him, but you know, use something that's going to be a little bit, you know, not a script. So here we go. We're going to look at this from a profile. We have what we call the crown. This is where we kind of come around to the transition. So this becomes what we call the corner, and then the front. So we have the crown, corner, front, and we break it into those three so that way to help our transition. So this is something that's sort of new with Reuzel and how we've kind of changed and evolved our sectioning and our patterns. But we created something also called Reuzel University, and again, as we're moving on, we have a full curriculum that we have that's for the undergrad and the basic school students and whatnot. And it kind of really, it's what geeks me out. I mean, I really love, you know, kind of diving deep on the education and, you know, separating everything and breaking everything down so that way, you know, a new learner could see it kind of conceptually and understand, you know, it's not only what we're doing, but why we're doing it, right? It's not, you know, it's how we're doing it, you know, why we're doing it. So now we're going to take another section that mirrors that initial baseline that we had. So it's going to be, again, it looks like a diagonal line, but it's a straight line. We're using that baseline from the bottom as our guide. Here's our guide, here's our new section. Now here's what happens. Go from a profile. Your baseline continues to come out straight off the head. Everything else kind of comes down to that. We're building up weight. There are a few, you know, universal truths, if you will. And, you know, in haircutting 101, horizontal sections build weight, diagonal sections create movement, and vertical sections remove weight. So basically what I want to do is I want to have this to have a buildup of weight, but because we're going off the shape of the head, it's going to have a bit of a diagonal section. But here's I want to build weight. If everything came down, I would say everything was sort of lifted off, this profile would round off too much. I said I want to have a buildup of weight, so I have a stationary guide at my baseline. All right, take the last section. And there again, I'm moving around the head as well. So I'm walking around as I go. And we'll do the, now we'll do the opposite side. Again, we're gonna have that same new section. Comb from the underneath. There's my guide. Here's my new section. And keep walking around. So you'll kind of, and there again, this is sort of a check. You're going to come down until you see a bit of a point right here, which is exactly what I want. I'm not going to keep that point, but this is there again. You have to find little areas of checks and balances as you go through the haircut. You know, we have to make sure we have symmetry, and as many guides as you can have. You can ask the guys here that I teach. I'm always asking them, "Where's your guide? Where's your guide? Where's your guide?" You can't cut hair without a guide. Sorry, end of story. You need a guide. So you want to make sure, because that's, you know, that's your roadmap, right? There's my guide underneath. Very, very easy to see. There it is. There's my new section. Off it goes. So always have your guide. All right, now we're going to move to the corner. So once again, a horizontal section. get that out of the way. We're working from the back toward the front because I'm working from, again, I'm working from short to long. There's my guide, right about the mid-ear. Because I want to have the front a little bit longer, because he wears his hair a little bit longer, with this next section, I'm going to start to abandon my guide. Right? I want to make sure I leave enough length. So this hair is going to kind of fall underneath here, and I'm just going to start to make this a tad bit longer toward the front. You're going to need this hair right in this area here for it to swoop back and fill in all of those corners. So it's blended from back to just above the ear. Again, there's my guide. Now here's my guide from the previously cut section, but my baseline has fallen out. So it's going to be a bit of an undercut. And we'll take the last one. We're going to keep combing. So you can see how we have this hair that's just sort of swooping back so beautifully. We cut diagonal sections off of this, so we're going to have some movement, but we've cut with a horizontal transition, so we're having a nice buildup of weight to get that shape. So again, from the front, I should have worn a white shirt. Here's this, all right? So what you want to see is this verticalness, right? This is what kind of creates the masculinity. You want to have this vertical shape. Even though my length at the perimeter is long, which is great, you want to have this tall, lean, masculine shape. So we're going to take that out. All right, I'm going to move on to the, yes, I'm wearing a shirt, a sweater, and a sport coat because it's Chicago, it's spring, the sun is shining, it's 30 degrees. Are you freaking kidding me? Come on, really? So Nick's in Florida. He's probably in shorts and a t-shirt. At least I hope he's wearing shorts and a t-shirt and not less than shorts and a t-shirt. But in Chicago, March 28th, it's 30 degrees and I'm wearing cashmere. What can I tell you?
It's great, George. I'm sunbathing at the moment, actually.
Thank you, Nick. Yeah, God bless you. Nick is my workout partner when we're on the road. He's at the gym at 5:30, 5:45 at the hotel gym every morning. I usually come bleary-eyed walking in at about 6:15 as he's already done 6 miles on the treadmill. But thanks for keeping me motivated, Nick.
I got you, buddy.
Yeah, see? That is one of the things about living in Chicago when it's below zero and you wear lots of layers. I think it's important to have some of your own natural layers as well, if you know what I mean. A little bit of natural fluff shows up. All right, so crown corner. Now for the front. This is the money shot, right? I take a section that kind of, there again, parallel to the hairline. There's my guide. And I'll just cut up to it.
Hey, George. No
Yes, sir.
questions, just lots of praise. Great explanation on the horizontal, vertical, and diagonal. Katrin said the man, the myth, the manther, the legend. Flat George says amazing cut. So lots of praise. Your mom is watching. The mom
Hey,
is
Mom.
watching.
I knew.
Overall, nothing but love, George.
Thank you.
Haircut
Thank
looks
you
great.
all. I miss you guys. You know, it's been a lot of years since we've been all together, and that's my least favorite part of all of this craziness. And looking forward to getting back on the road and hanging out with everybody. Because there again, it's like, we see each other on Facebook, we see each other on Instagram, and people are doing amazing work. But as far as I'm concerned, nothing can compare to being in the same room with each other and sharing stories and sharing ideas and sharing inspiration and energy. I mean, we have this amazing team. All right, so last thing I want to do is I've moved into to the top is there again, classic men's hair, shorter in the crown, longer in the front. So I'm going to take everything that will reach. And if things fall out, that's fine, because this is sort of the sides. I don't want to remove that. Just want to take some. There's my length guide in the front, so I want that to be the longest point. So that's my guide I'm working towards. And going back to my guide at the crown. All right, look at that head of hair. All right, now time for the all-important blow dry. The blow dry is crucial to what we do and how we do it, and most importantly, why we do it, right? Because we want him to leave with as close to a perfect haircut as possible. And hair changes between wet and dry. I want to make sure that his hair is done. Now, will he dry at home? Probably not. Will his hair eventually dry? Yes. So I want to make sure that his hair looks as good as possible when it's dry. So I'm going to. There's a lot of different products we use when we're doing blow drying. They're again based on density, based on texture, based on a lot of different factors. Our go-to number one, liquid gold, the grooming tonic is our go-to blow dry product. If he had finer, thinner hair, but I still wanted to have some length, you can very easily go to fiber gel. This little guy here is probably one of my favorite products, just for the versatility that it has. It's a firm hold gel that you can blow dry with. It's a firm hold gel that you can use after you're done to kind of lock in a shape. It's a firm hold gel that you can put on wet hair and slick back. I mean, there's the incredible versatility with that. Longer hair, curlier hair, something, the clay spray is another one we've been using a lot to, to kind of get in a good foundation. Jake has a bunch of hair, so we don't have to worry about that, but I am going to use a little bit of the grooming tonic. And there again, see, I purposely, didn't blast it with a lot of water as I went, because I want to, get through this this blow dry portion, because I still have a lot of hair to cut. What time is it? How much time do I have? Where are you at there? It's we got 20 minutes. Perfect. Vent brush. So again, we have a very specific method of how we blow dry the hair as well. Or again, everybody wants to go in and see that pompadour shape, grow and live initially. Be patient. Wait. We're going to start in the back, because you don't want dry hair to lay on wet hair. So we're going to start in the back. Vent brush, so you can kind of dry it through. And this is this is not a final blow dry, if you will, but this is such an important part of the haircut, is getting this blow dry down, making sure that I like to use a concentrator. I'm laying it, it's not volume at the crown, it's drying the crown naturally. So here, and then when we get to the sides, we're also going to go straight back. And the vent brushes, there again, is just to guide the hair. It's not to lift the hair away. It's just to guide the hair and get it dry from the base as much as possible. And as you move to the top, you just keep adding a little more hair. Jake is a professor at Northwestern University, which is here in Evanston. He's an artist. He's a musician. So I want his hair to kind of have all those qualities, right? I want his haircut to sort of be able to sort of cross boundaries as far as, when he's, professorial, if you will, and then also when he's rocking out with his band. All right, now as we get to the front, you can see that the angle of my blow dryer has changed dramatically. Flat, sideways. Now I'm trying to create a little bit more volume. So I have that blow dryer going straight up. Change sides, change hands. Watch out that your videographer doesn't step on your cord. Thanks, Josh. And often with my clients that have, longer hair and want a little bit of of lift, again, they don't need to blow dry their entire head. I'll show them how they can just spend, a minute or two on the front to kind of get that lift that they want. And I know the haircut's gonna fall in perfectly everywhere else. So I blow it dry at the end of every haircut, or before end of every haircut, just to finish it, and then explain to them how they could maintain this at home, right? Because we all have the clients like, it looks so great when I leave the shop, it never looks as good, the next day or the next week. I don't want that. I want them to look good all the way up until they make their next appointment to come in. So a little bit of tutorial and a little bit of maintenance goes a long, long way. And depending on the hair you have and the length you have, what I'm doing now, as you can see from a profile, I actually have Jake's head down, right? You can let gravity help you as well. So I want this to come forward Again, this is crucial. From the front hairline, going out, forward, and then back, as opposed to, it just gives a better profile look than blowing everything back. You want it to go and have this shape. All right. All right. I mentioned this is where the haircut really kind of gets the detail and the finish and the tailoring on all of this, right? I wanted to maintain as much length so we can have it to kind of really swoop back and kind of feather back and kind of get some fenders. But now I want to go through around the perimeter. I like to use my comb. Anytime you're working with clipper over comb, I use it. This is a Babless, and I have it closed all the way to have the maximum amount of texture, or I mean, tension. I can see exactly what hair needs to come off as in I'm doing it. So I got a little more of the kind of bulk removal before, and then I'm going to open up my the arms just to start to taper this out around the neckline. And what happens when you do this on dry hair as well is that you start to see, the bits of weight and the bits of, things that you kind of want to kind of go back afterwards and take out. So let's head down. Again, opening it up and just fanning, just to taper out this neckline. Again, because it's so long on the front and so long on the top, I'm a big proponent of balance, right? If this is bald skin fade, it's a cool look. It's a little more of a rockabilly look than he's going for, but I want there to have as much balance between the length that we have here and then a nice, beautiful classic taper that lives in the neckline. So we're gonna move back to the other side. Again, back to closing. Nick, how we doing for time?
We're closing in on the hour.
Perfect.
No questions, no recommendations for products, so it's all yours, your show.
Thank you. Well, thank you. It kind of is, but okay, thank you. Clean up around the ears. Again, opening up with the arm just to fan through the neckline. No questions, huh? Everybody's still sleeping this morning.
No questions, just lots of praise.
All right, and the last and final bit of detail before I add product is the blending shear. Blending shear, not a thin shear, not a texturizing shear. We use this in the world of blending. So again, I'm going to kind of go back through my initial steps wherever I can see a little bit of weight that I may have had that I don't want. I'll just run right around. And then what we do is we look at blending and kind of a little bit of bulk removal in a couple different ways. I'm working right now on the ends, which is bulk removal. As I get up into the interior, I'm going to go a little bit lower on the hair shaft. We kind of break it up into thirds, so that way it goes from bulk removal to support, because I want to support some of this long length that it has on top. Sorry, I'm always spinning, but I'm using my mirror right now as my guide and my extra set of eyes as I go through this. So now that, like I said, the hair is dry, I can see if there's any little bits of weight that I may have missed with my by putting in my, or left when I was putting in my initial sketch. All right, and then from here through the top there again, I want to just kind of go in a little bit there again. If you kind of see this, if I'm working on the ends, this is called bulk removal. As I'm working from mid shaft, this is a bit of support that'll help support those longer lengths. So take some of the bulk off of the ends, off of the length, and then go right around mid shaft. All right, product-wise, Jake has this great colored hair, and I want to add just a little bit of the, there again, it's Reuzel, right? We have a plethora of different options, from matte to shine to hold factors to from concretes to whatnot, and I'm going with probably, I'm old school. I love a little bit of grease. I want to use a little bit of the green. It's probably one of my favorite products as well, because it has enough shine, has a little bit of hold. Really work it in and get it in kind of scalped ends. I mean, he's not a true greaser or a rocker, but you could see how it just adds a little bit of shine to his hair. It really, those blonde highlights really kind of come out. There's that great separation. I like to use my fingers at this point. All right, Nick, well, I'm winding up. I want to thank everybody for watching. Hope you learned a little something from today, got a little bit of inspiration, saw how and why we do things the way we do them at Reuzel. Cool. One thing I want to mention before we go is the guys are coming back. They're going to be in Atlantic City next weekend for a show. They're going to be at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City. First time they've been on U.S. soil since 2019, I believe. So if you're on the East Coast and you're in the area, please go see them. I think there's an opportunity for that. We still need a couple models. So contact Nick. Nick, thank you very much for doing this. And last but not least, Jake, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, everybody. Have a good Monday. Talk to you later. Bye.
Thanks, George. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in to our Facebook Live today. Tune in next week, April 4th, for Paul Dunning.
Woo-hoo.
Thank you.
All right, you're gonna want to watch that one.